Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It is Wednesday. It is 6 p.m. in the UK. It's time for Evening Brews. Welcome, everybody, wherever you are in the world. I hope you've had a good day. I am joined today, making his second appearance after being a brilliant guest last week, with none other than Jonny Evans. So, Jonny, how are you, sir?
Very well. Thank you for having me back quite so soon. I didn't necessarily expect to be back here already, but I'm delighted to be. So thank you for having me.
Your absolute pleasure. And I will say, at the beginning of the day, we were struggling to find what news to talk about. And then in true Tottenham Hotspur style, news after news after news, and the ownership, the management, and quite a bit to speak about today. Let's just say hello to everyone that's in the chat to begin with. And we're starting with Mr. Sweden, Mr. Tony Rodriguez, a channel member. Tweaky, channel member, good evening to you. Another channel member, a hat-trick, Andrew Gregory. 4, Alex Gomez membership. 5, Stuart727. What the F is Angeball? What a name. He has joined the chat. Sean Slater, another channel member. The Hotspur Hood, big up. I was just on his show, everyone. Great channel that one is. Ian Collins, welcome, buddy. Member, Mark Cousins. Oscar Peters, big up. Darren Johnson, big up to you, channel member. Colin Cross-Amano is here. Another channel member in Tom81. Ring Ketic, another channel member. Max Lyon, another channel member. Jonathan Paul, big up to you. Eugene, another channel member. Anurag, good evening to you from India. Angus McDowell, the filth is in the building. Love you, buddy. And of course, the Bertie Hotspur, another channel member. I will say at the end of this, Sean Slater set up a Tottenham on Tour Fantasy Football League. I have submitted my team. My team name is Control, Alt, and Delete. You have got till kickoff time Friday to join. I will be putting in the code and the link to join that Fantasy Football League. Craig O'Sullivan, another channel member, has joined. Audio Artisan, big up my man. Andrew Gregory has joined as well. Right, Jonny, you ready to do this?
Yes, mate. Let's go.
Let's begin it at the start. It's always the best place to do so. So last word on Spurs dropped today. Information from Dan Kilpatrick about loans and staying. And it starts with Justin. Tottenham are expected to loan out youngsters Alfie Devine, Ashley Phillips, Jamie Donnelly before the end of the month. But Mikey Moore will be staying as part of Ange Postecoglou's team. Lancashire has also caught the eye in recent pre-season and could be loaned out, though Spurs are short of cover at centre-forward after season-long loans for Valise and Dane Scarlett to their clubs respectively. So let's deal with the outgoings. Was obviously Donnelly, Devine and Phillips. Where are you, Jonny, and where is everyone in the chat with these loan moves?
Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. I think we've talked about, like, Alfie Devine is a player who I appreciate a lot. I think he's looked really, really good in pre-season, and I really feel like he's a player that's got a future. So I'm hoping. I think the main thing I always hope for from a loan is that it's one where they're actually going to get minutes. Do you know what I mean? Where they're going to play significantly, and he did get that at Plymouth last season. So I'm hoping that he gets the same thing again. Donnelly, again, really intrigued to see what he can do. Intrigued to see where he'll play. I mean, obviously, he's been playing left back in pre-season for us, so but he's predominantly been a bit of more like a number 10 for the unders. So I'd like to see him probably back in more of an attacking role if he goes out on loan. Who else was it? It was Devine. Who else was it? I can't remember who else we had. Oh, have you gone?
I don't know.
Briefly. I was panicking there for a minute.
One second. I'm still with you, yes?
Yes, you're still in.
I don't know what happened there, but I am back with you. Carry on.
Phillips, wasn't it? It was Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing with Phillips is that he was linked to Getafe, I want to say, out in Spain.
Correct. And other clubs in England, but Getafe is the one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather he plays in England, if I'm honest. So let's hope that comes off. But again, like I could have expected Phillips to possibly be part of the first team with the lack of real depth we've got at centre back. I know Davies can do it. Do I feel good about Davies being a fourth centre back option this season? I'm not sure I do. So we'll see. We've been linked with a defender today, I think, Mario Hermoso, who's a free agent actually. So I'm albeit tenuous or ITK or whatever it was. So there's no real concrete reports just yet. But if there are such a thing as concrete links, Lancashire, I want to stick around. I think that there's every chance that Richarlison continues to kind of be fairly patchy in his fitness. So that's going to mean that we're going to need another option, and I don't want it to be Kulusevski or who Andrew's already said he doesn't necessarily see him playing centrally up front for us this season. So, Lancashire's got the build, he's got the body, he's got the strength to kind of mix it, I think, with the men in the Premier League. So, I think that's probably where I'm at with it all.
I'll give my view, and I'm going to leave a very special person till last, and that man will be the king to me, which is Alfie Devine, or the prince, shall I say, the prince of White Hart Lane at the moment. Donnelly, and I know Sean Slater is in the building, and if he goes on loan and Devine goes on loan, we will do a loan watch because we are both very much in tune with those developments for those guys. Donnelly, I really thought with him playing left back for most of the pre-season friendlies, this is where he was going to be. And he was going to stay as Destiny's replacement or understudy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I think we all know that he tore up the league PL2 last season in assists, and we know his position had advanced. So when it comes to him, I think it needs to be a loan move. And whether it's to I don't know where you'd put him. Would you put him at a playoff challenging an above team? Is it just go out to the Championship wherever? I can't decide, but we'll see. It's definitely Championship for me, not League One. Phillips did amazing at Plymouth. He really did well. Out of him and Devine, he shone.
Yeah,
but that was playing in a defence where he was going to feature. Obviously, Devine's manager got sacked, so it was the manager that wanted him, so he didn't get to play as much. I believe in Ashley Phillips. I really think there is a big-time player there in Spurs' future. Yeah. And you would say, looking at it, in years forward, and obviously Van der Ven is young, will be here for a while, please God, you're looking at Vuskovic and Phillips, really, aren't you? And a Dorrington coming through. So Phillips to go out on loan, completely fine with. But then it begs the question, do we bring in another centre-back? And you mentioned, I keep forgetting,
Hermoso, I believe.
I was close. Hermoso. Yeah. So all I know about that dude is he's one of the fastest players around, defensive-wise. So again, that's another good thing to have. But when it comes to Alfie, my boy Alfie, my heart is saying I want him to stay at Spurs. My heart is saying he's already above Ollie Skip. My heart is saying he could get games, whether it be Europa, whether it be domestic. But my head is saying that he needs to get first-team football. He needs to play regularly in the position that Ange Postecoglou deems him fit, and that's where he sees his future and getting game times. As I've said all along, the club I'd love him to go to is Luton Town.
Okay.
Close to home, a manager that will play that type of football. With Ross Barkley gone, you bring him in, he could be sensational for a Luton. I mean, where are you with these players? Where are you looking? Where would you place them? The Phillips. You said Phillips, England. Where would you place Donnelly and Devine? That goes for everyone in the chat as well.
I wouldn't have an issue with them going down to League One. I know that Lancashire at one stage was obviously being linked to Wrexham. I think that was mentioned as a possible option, and their fans were getting really excited about that prospect. Obviously, I don't see that happening. I've got a particular affiliation with Reading. That's where I was born, and one of my best mates is a season ticket holder at Reading, and they play. Ruben Sellers plays a similar brand of football, maybe not quite so balls out as Ange ball, but similar kind of attacking, progressive football. So I'd quite happily see any of them go there, and give me an opportunity to go and see them in the flesh a bit more, because I do try to get to Reading when I can, just because I guess they're like a second club in a way. They just always have been. So, but any club that, as I say, has the intention to play these players, isn't just bringing them in for depth. They actually see the ability there and want them to play. I'm really not fussy which club it is, and whether it's sort of, as I say, no lower than League One, preferably Championship. Dane Scarlett's gone to Oxford, and I've got a mate at work who's an Oxford fan, so I got in his ear and I said, what's the score? Because again, Scarlett's had loans that just haven't panned out for him. He's not really been played, and I think it would be nice if he did get minutes. And so I asked him, and he said that they only had one other striker, and he wasn't particularly kind of guaranteed to play every week. Like he's decent, but nothing special. So hoping that Scarlett gets good minutes there. So that's all I'm looking for. I couldn't name any clubs other than Reading, and that's through selfish reasons, really.
No, of course. I mean, I look at it as well. You said like I said, Championship. I think if any of our players do go to League One, and I'm not just talking about those three, if they went down that avenue, I would want Birmingham to be the only club they go to. Go work with our ex-assistant manager who knows full well what we're going to play. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens with them. But what I will say, when we're talking about the young players, I know Craig's in the chat as well, Cooper is determined to get skip at Leicester and keep an eye on it. And when Colin starts speaking about teams in the Midlands, listen, people, listen. If not before Monday, though, let's see now if he. So let's just say Skippy does go. If Skippy goes to Tottenham, and this is for everyone, and Sean, I know you're going to be biased. If Skippy goes to Tottenham, if Spurs had to keep one of Alfie Devine and Jamie Donnelly, who, I mean, I'm going to rule myself out as well because everyone knows my answer. Everyone in the chat, there's over 100 of you in here now, so minus Sean. If we got rid of Skippy and we had to keep a Jamie Donnelly or Alfie Devine, who are you keeping?
It's Devine for me.
Good man. You can come back on.
I rate Donnelly massively. I think he's a very, very gifted footballer. And I think the way that he performed at left back this pre-season was admirable, in a number of games. But I think that, and I should point out actually, at the Bayern game at the weekend, Skip played really well. He did. He really put himself about. He was involved in a lot. He was breaking forward in that sort of number 8 role, and he did a great job. But the way I look at Skip is the way that I looked at Walker Peters, in that we held on to Walker Peters for way too long, and just didn't give him an opportunity to go out and really start establishing his career until way later than he should have. And he was a very, very capable player that should have played more for the first team before we let him go. So I don't want to see that happen to Skip. So if Leicester want Skip, then we should be letting it happen, but not before Monday. Let's.
Has he seen a Skip and Winks masterclass?
Well, I just don't want it. I don't want it. I don't like seeing us playing against our ex-players, particularly because you just know they're going to have a worldie and have half our fan base go, we should never have sold him. So I don't even want to run the risk, really. But, I've always liked Skip. He's a nice player, but to me, he's no better than a sort of mid-table Premier League player. And with all due respect, that's not meant to be an insult of any kind. He's a nice footballer, but we need to be where we're at and what we're aiming for. We need to be keeping players that we think can be next level up, in my opinion. So
I have to say as well, and we'll have a quick chat of this before we move on to the next one. I've seen obviously 2 names have come up as well, without even Donnelly and Devine. And all you people that said Donnelly, I will be coming back to find you when Devine tears it up. I'm taking notes, people. If he goes, there's 2 other names that have been chucked in, and you mentioned one of them, which is a Carl Walker-Peters.
Yeah.
Obviously a Marcus Edwards, because no matter what happens, it's a club trained player that will be going out the door. So one has to come in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not mad on the idea of Walker Peters coming back. it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I feel like I would probably sooner shoot for Marcus Edwards, but then at the same time, we were being linked with him before, and he was an option, and he does fit the profile, and he is a right winger. But we can probably do a bit better. The only way that I'm taking him is if we guarantee to be going for someone like Eze with the money that is available to spend. And there obviously has been talk of a number 8. I think the Athletic only tweeted like yesterday or the day before that there's still a need for a number 8. Now, whether you look at Eze as a number 8 or not, and maybe I'm clinging on to this thing that's not going to happen. But I would need to see, if we were going to put him in at right wing, I would need to see another top player come in the midfield that's attacking, that's going to help us retain the ball upfield, break down low blocks, all that kind of good stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's we'll have to see.
So I have to say, with Kyle Walker-Peters, I don't get it. We've got enough right backs. It's the one. Marcus Edwards, you mentioned, is a player that obviously the position suits, so you can get it. Adrian said it, and the more and more I think about it, that was Michael's. If we have to bring a club-trained player back and he is available, I know we're talking Chelsea and they probably won't do business with us and we probably won't want to do business with them. But for what we need right now, if we had to bring back a club-trained player, I'm going all out for this guy. What about you, Johnny?
Definitely. When he early part of the season, first half of the season, I didn't really feel like Madueke was doing an awful lot. But as Chelsea's form improved, his form improved with it. And towards the end of the season, he was really committing his fullback, taking him on, driving, doing all the things that we would want in terms of that profile. So yeah, absolutely. But again, to put it into some sort of context with Chelsea, and as much as those owners are absolutely batshit, the story with Conor Gallagher is that obviously that's all kind of breaking down and got a bit weird. And today it was mentioned by Matt Law that they were quoting us 45 million, at minimum, whereas they were going to sell him to Atletico and still might for like 33.5. So they're going to charge us. They're going to overcharge us just for being Spurs, really. So I have no idea what cost he would come at, Noni. But they've signed Neto, who arguably plays on the right as much as he plays on the left. They've got Palmer, who plays on the right. So is it going to be Palmer on the right and Neto on the left? Probably. So where does that leave Madueke,
Correct. And I will say, before we go on to the next subject, and you mentioned Eze, him and another player who has a release fee, and you probably saw on the thumbnail, he will be spoken about. And as we get more and more towards or deeper into the show, we will be going towards talking about our owner, my specialist subject. Save the best till last. But remember, guys, if you want to have a question answered at the end, 3 ways to do it. Put a Q and a dash so I can see it. And at TOT dash, or if you're in a position and you want to, there's no obligation. You can put a super chat in and we will discuss it straight away. When I go to start doing the questions, I cannot see the questions you start putting in. So get them in before we start doing the questions. But we're going to touch on this one very briefly because there is a lot to talk about on other things. Just in, Tottenham Hotspur, former Tottenham Hotspur head coach Jose Mourinho has now requested that the Fenerbahce board sign Sergio Reguilon. Fenerbahce will face competition from Barcelona and Galatasaray for the Spurs left back. Now, I just want him gone. I mean, I can't believe he could be a player that could potentially play for both Real and Barca. I don't know how this has happened, but where are you? I've got some people that say, do you know what, he could be a good backup for Destiny. I'd rather Donnelly, if I was honest. Just hasn't worked out, has it, Johnny?
No, and I feel a little bit sorry for Reguilon in a way because, when he came in with quite a lot of fanfare along with Bale, and that day was a hell of a day when they both joined. And I was very excited about Reguilon. He'd come out of that Europa League winning Sevilla side, and like you say, Real Madrid were in that first season with us. Real Madrid were talking about doing the buyback, and we were all panicking. But for whatever reason, it's just not panned out. I think he's a bit erratic defensively. I'm not sure he can really be trusted, and I don't see him being great in that inverted sense that Udogie does for us so well. Like you say, Donnelly arguably is a better fit doing that if he can work on his game defensively. I think with all due respect to Reguilon, Turkey feels like a good fit. The links to Barcelona are a bit baffling, but whatever. We've done a good job of getting out players, and he needs to be the next one on the list.
He does. And Joe, that's enough talk about Sergio Reguilon. Let's start ramping up the gears. Now, we are going to talk about this. Listen, neither of us think this is ever going to happen in a million years, but we're starting to go towards manager now and board. So Spurs Global via Matt Law, and Matt Law has had a lot to say today. A lot. So Ange Postecoglou was understanding that a move for Nico Williams was never particularly realistic. Spurs were one of a clutch of clubs, to inquire conditions of a deal, and were told that it was a £50 million release clause that could only be triggered by one immediate payment. Now, Nico Williams has been given the number 10. He's going nowhere. He's probably going to one of the big Spanish clubs next year. Why I wanted to talk about this with you, Johnny, is obviously there's this man who was a target or was interest. And obviously, there's the big one at Crystal Palace, my number one, Eze. And again, it's a release fee, and it's the big amount. Now, I want to ask the question of you and the 142 people we got in here now. Is it Spurs won't, or is it Spurs are not willing to pay this? Can they pay it? Which I believe they can. I believe they could say, right, let's just say 50 million like Nico. We've just done 30 for Dominic Solanke.
Yeah.
Then I've heard people say we won't pay the wages, which fair play. Do you know what? He wanted 300 grand. Mm-hmm. I know we're getting to the stage where we should be offering players that amount. We've cleared enough of the wage bill to do it.
Yeah.
So is it Spurs? Do you think Spurs can pay the release fees, but they're just not?
Yeah, I do. I do think that they can afford to pay them. I guess all transfers these days are done, where the cost is spread over the term of the contract, and that's just become the norm. So I suppose unless it's really necessary, there isn't that inclination to pay a fee up front. From what I've read about Dom Solanke was that negotiations started in June. He obviously had a release clause. And unlike Palace, Bournemouth were willing to talk about, the potential terms of it to kind of still meet that number, but in a slightly different way. And obviously we did pay 30 up front. Obviously from what I gather, from the sales we've made, it's somewhere in the region of 65 million to this point. But again, it's going to have what's going out. The players that are going out are going to have been purchased in the same way. On this in this amortized fashion. So I think that probably the likelihood is we can afford to pay these fees up front, but we would only be willing to do so for a very, very special player, which I agree with you. I believe Eze is that player. Nico Williams is as well. But I think once he blew up at the Euros and did what he did, that was quickly... The time to move for him was... January, probably. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. And even then, the wage is astronomical. Bilbao as well. His brother, Inaki, is very, very loyal to Bilbao. I don't think it would be difficult for him to stay loyal to Bilbao for at least another season, perhaps. So, yeah, I don't see him going anywhere. So, like you said, that's not even really worth touching on. But, yeah, I think it's just the nature of transfers these days and arguably the nature of our owner. Will investment make a difference? I'd like to think it would, but where is it? Is it coming? I really hope so. But there's no sign of it at the moment after some of the chatter about Amanda Staveley and all that stuff. So,
Johnny, I'm going to ask you a question there, and we're going to touch on this now because I completely forgot about this. Now, myself, and I'm not going to name others, but there are others within the community, and others are on social media that say this all the time. Whenever these rumours come up,
yeah,
they are always deterrence during a transfer window. Always when things start getting a bit, well, what's going on? Why aren't we spending? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And then it becomes a massive thing. Oh my God, it's going to happen this time. It's happening. And every single time, I and others, I will mention Stabber, Stel, people on other chat will say every single time, it's news for 3 days, and then poof, off you go. You've been led down that path. You've gone down that road, and then it's just disappeared like it wasn't even here. I think it's happened again. Do I think Stabley's interested? Yes. Do I think it was as close to where they're saying they were? Not a chance. Do I think it's a complete, total, and utter deterrent? 100%. Where are you with it?
I hadn't ever really thought about it that way, to see the truth, but now that you mention it, it is kind of uncanny, isn't it? How these stories have popped up quite regularly, but just relatively sort of spaced apart, and then it never really turns into anything. Like the stadium naming rights. Like, what's happened with that? Like, we've been in this stadium for God knows how many years now, and we're still the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which I like, but the money that's there and that's available to gain for the club, why haven't we done that yet? I must admit it's a fair shout, and you do have to wonder when anything's ever going to change in that respect. I'm not confident.
Well, this is the thing, Joe. This is exactly. I will say, James is a very good friend of mine. James, the way that I have met Johnny is I was going through Twitter. And as you know, I'm a huge Saints fan, and he was a huge Saints fan. I was like, oh, my God, that deserves a follow. We got talking. He came on last week, loved it, and he's back again. So we'll be putting his Twitter. Johnny is a top guy. We speak a lot now. And this is the thing, Johnny, where I was going with this is I said to a lot of people this summer, I'm approaching things this way. Not the shouting, screaming, bitching, moaning, rank, and just jumping on everything.
Yeah. And
I want to go down this approach to talk to people calmly, respectfully, and a way where you can actually have a conversation about, look at, how about this, how about that, rather than shout. And like I said, you and I are I wouldn't say worlds apart with where we stand on the board. I'm just extreme as they come, and you're more level-headed, so to speak, or you're not where I am. Let's put it that way. But having this conversation with you just now and just talking to you calmly and normally, and just go, well, you look at it last season with QSI during the January window. Every time it's during a window, and this is why I've been trying to say to people, I've gone down this different road because you can have this conversation and speak to people that may not feel the same way as me, and vice versa. People can show me, well, no, they've done this well, but again, it's come at a time. This was pre-Solanke, so remember, we hadn't made that signing. The link hadn't even been made to Solanke, or the rumour hadn't really been ramped up, and all of a sudden it was big talk. And obviously us YouTubers and content creators and big Twitter accounts jump on it. It's what they want. And then, like a puff of smoke, it's gone, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a few comments there about like the naming rights and the fact that it's kind of moved to a point now where the name of the club is from a marketing standpoint is doing us a favour. So yeah, good point, and that makes sense. But I mean, I want to clarify. I'm not Levy in by any means, right? I'm no defender of the man. I can see the merits of what he has done for this club, but I can also see the many mistakes that he's made. And I think it's time for, if not a new owner, then investment from somewhere that will allow him to be less constrained in the way that he runs his club. If that would ever be a possibility, I don't know. I appreciate the good things he's done. I would like a new owner. At the same time, I mentioned Reading earlier. If you know anything about Reading FC, you know about their ownership situation, you know that it is a horrendous thing that they are going through, and they are desperate for new ownership because they've been basically relegated down the leagues because of their owner. So, grass isn't always greener and all that sort of stuff. But, we're always the nearly men, aren't we, really? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Like our Arsenal fan friend in the chat enjoying telling us.
Oh, he's brilliant.
We haven't won a trophy for many, many years now, and something needs to change. So, yeah, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if this is all just smokescreen stuff. But yeah, I think the like you said, the trick for me is I do my best to keep my head.
Yeah.
I think Twitter is an echo chamber of madness at times, and I think getting angry at other Tottenham fans because they don't necessarily fully agree with you is kind of pointless in many ways. And I prefer to choose hope. I go into every season with the same initial optimism and hope because I prefer to try to live in that kind of space. Because if I don't, and I allow all the things that worry me, and trust me, I've got worries, then it would really bring me down. And I've had some really negative times as a Tottenham fan. It's been under Conte, under Mourinho, under AVB. They were brutal times, and I hated them. But I need to believe that there is hope, and I will stick with that as much as I can until it reaches that tipping point. And then once I go off the edge of that cliff, I'll be right there with you, ranting and raving like a madman. But
good. I'm recruiting madmen all the time, and women. There's never too many of them. But you mentioned as well with the investment, we're going to come on to something surely around the transfer team, because I'm going to keep using the quotation marks because it's an absolute. It's absolutely a joke what's going on. But I will say, Terry, listen, people love Nuclear Dagul. Nuclear Dagul is still in there. But Nuclear Dagul is not going to come out like it always used to at this time, where there's still time in the window, where all my nuclear stuff can then be made to have egg on my face and look stupid. I'm actually preferring this way. But don't you worry, Terry. It's still in there. It is still in there. And there's a chance it can be coming. So the next one. Thank you, Patrick. We are still hoping. I love the word hoping. It's not like you've had 3 months to try and get. We've gone to now hoping, which reads to me, and I hate what I'm about to say, Spurs are back to once again awaiting opportunities. There's going to be a lot of this, by the way, for the next part of the show. What do you take from that? I mean, to me, a right winger is the most essential signing we need right now. Where are you?
Yeah, I tend to agree because as much as I like Brennan Johnson, and I know a lot of people don't or aren't convinced, I do think that he's a good player. I think he's useful. As much as I'd probably prefer to see him coming off the bench for like the last sort of 20, 30 minutes of games where he could use his pace and go at tired legs. I do think that a proper right winger is what we need. I'm not madly convinced on the left wing either, if I'm honest with you. I've sort of mentioned that I've got my reservations about Son and his ability to kind of stay at that top level. He coughed the ball up a lot again against Bayern in the friendly, just never really quite looked himself, or at least not the Son that we know and love. But he had a good season last season for the most part. He scored a lot of goals. But so and he's the club captain and we love him, right? He's a legend. So I'm willing to kind of see how that plays out. Mikey Moore obviously is a backup option there. Looks good. Solomon's going out the door from the sounds of things. Kulusevski, I don't really want to see him on the right wing either. So we need a right winger. And I'm hoping. I'm sure. Listen, I'm convinced that there are numerous targets, players who have been identified using this data-led approach. But what I worry about is the fact that we still haven't done anything. Obviously, we were interested in Neto. We made a bid, cash plus player, and that didn't come off. So be it. But you need to be moving. And obviously things are going on in the background. We don't know what's going on. But when the season's about to start, I would have felt a lot happier and a lot calmer if that particular position had been filled. And then anything about central midfielders or left backs or centre backs would have been far less of a concern to me, because those are, to be honest, more kind of options that are for strength in depth. Whereas we need a starting right winger in the same way that we needed a starting striker. And we've done the striker. Good stuff. I'm well happy about that. Super excited about Solanke. But we need a starting right winger.
So what I'm going to say, John, as well, if you look at it, we've gone into this team, we've got our striker. Okay, whether people want to say I appreciate the I'm fully on board Solanke, I don't get it, he's not a big name, he's done it one season, whatever. Tottenham Hotspur have their man as the number one striker. Now, surely when you have a striker, the most important thing is having the ammunition to give it to him.
Yeah.
Like you said, we currently have 4 wingers that can't cross a football on a regular basis with quality. Like, don't get me wrong, Werner got a few assists, but it takes him 4 or 5 attempts to get one in. Brennan Johnson, who I've stood by like yourself, needs to have a big season. I think his balls across the floor are good. We saw Richarlison latching onto him. His aerial crossing ability is woeful. And then you've got Dejan Predictabiliski on the right wing. And you've got Heung-min Son, who probably will get a lot of assists. How can we have a striker? And like we said, go back to it and said, we hope to get a winger. You've brought in a striker that thrived on ammunition, and you do not know how reliable that ammunition is. It does not make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I'd forgotten about Werner, actually. You know, and I like you say, they're all decent. They're all kind of they'll get assists. They will get goals. You know, I think Brennan Johnson statistically had a really good year for a player who certainly didn't start every game. You know, but to me his impact really came off the bench. Like he had that run where he was coming off the bench, you know, a few games in a row, and he really made an impact. And that's what I see from him at the moment. That's what I think, that he's not a rounded enough player to be able to be starting every week for a team that is wanting to challenge, certainly right now for the Champions League, you know, places. Certainly for you know, winning the Europa League or winning domestic cup. Like I just think that, you know, we need to upgrade that right wing position and make ourselves have those players as options, as rotation, as backup is not necessarily the right word, but just not the ones that we have to depend on week in, week out. You know, we need to have something better. And like you say, hoping is not going to cut it. We need to make that signing. You know, we really do.
Well, I'll tell you what, before I do the halftime team talk that I always do, I'm going to ask you one word answer from you and one word answer from the 187 we now have in the chat. Yes or no, Chris, one of the great people that live in this city I call home of Toronto, Shaqiri is available on a free transfer. Would you take a punt on Shaqiri for free, for nothing?
No.
I'm the opposite. Do you know what? Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to say this is the answer to the problems, but for a free transfer, hell yeah, I would take a punt on this guy.
If it got to the deadline day and we haven't done anything, then sure, right? But to me, he's just another Werner. He's just another. Like, don't get me wrong, and I don't mean that in the sense of how they play. Like Shaqiri's got real quality about his game, but he's getting on in years. Like, and to me, that's not going to do us any favors, really. Like I said, deadline day, everything else we've tried has not come off. Fine, but you know, I wouldn't be happy about it. And I would simply settle for it. But if you're asking me right now, I'd say no. Oh,
don't get me wrong. I'm not talking like I'm talking as an impact substitute to come off. We saw he done it at the Euros. Incredible shooting, dead balls, crossing, everything. And what I will say is, if we get to the end of the window and we've done nothing, believe me, Johnny, you'll be hearing me from London. You'll be hearing me from London. I will say before we go on and speak more about Ange and the board, it is the halftime. If we're only time we ask for it. If you are enjoying the content on Tottenham on Tour and you haven't liked the show, please give it a like. We are trying to push the show out to as many people as we can. And if you are enjoying it, please give us a subscribe. It's totally free. And we hope you enjoy the content coming up as the season approaches. Right. Second half begins. That's the team talk. Right. I'm going to try and keep a straight face when I read this because I saw this and the responses to this have been golden, pro and con. I'm really going to try and keep a straight face. Matt Lawrence said he's been quite written a report. The structured and methodical way in which Johan Lange works has helped Daniel Levy to get on with what he's good at, negotiating. The pair have been joined in recruitment meetings by Postecoglou and Scott Munn. Now, I'm going to leave that up there for you to read at your leisure, Johnny, and everyone else in the chat. What the hell are they talking about?
I don't know, mate, really, because last time I checked, negotiating isn't something I would say Levy's good at. He's notorious for, so I thought and I hoped that he had stepped back,
which we were told
from the football side of things, because if there's what we were saying earlier about recognizing the things that he's done well versus the things that he's not done well, negotiating transfers is fully in the not going well side of things. One of the reasons that we've not progressed on the pitch is because of him. He is a direct reason why, because he has involved himself in footballing decisions and things on the footballing side that he has absolutely no place being involved in. He's a businessman. He's taken us from a business sense. Tottenham is a superbly run club with incredible infrastructure.
Yep.
And have come a long way from that mid-table team that was perennially mid-table in White Hart Lane, right? We've come a long way from there. There's no two ways about it. That's a fact. But in the moment, there were key moments in the last 20 odd years that he's been our chairman and owner along with Enoch, where he has fumbled massively, and those have more often than not been in relation to negotiating transfers. So that part of the article from Matt Law concerns me greatly, and would probably explain why this summer has been a bit of a slow burn when it comes to transfers.
So I look at this, and like I said, I took a step back, and it's amazing how people who don't feel the way that I do, when we mentioned anything, oh no, he's not involved anymore. It's not him. There's Paratici, there's Munn. He doesn't do anything. He just signs the checks. They use that when things aren't going right, but then when things go wrong, they used it even with Archie Gray. Oh look, Daniel came to save the day because that deal was progressing for Brentford. No, it wasn't. But when people like myself want to say what the hell is going on, I can see a similar pattern with Spence when we're trying to get Spence over the line, when we're trying to get Emerson out of the club, when we've been trying to get players into the club. Now, Kate asked me a little bit before saying, and I don't know how people feel about this, and I'm going to see what you say about this, and this has got Levy to me written all over it. Dominic Solanke, was he Tottenham's number one striker target? Many people, and I was included, was saying, no, he wasn't, because if he was, we could have gone and got him in the Euros. But again, I took a step back and I look at it and I go, do you know what? He may have been the first target. Not saying he definitely is. This is my spin on it. I could see Daniel Levy using the whole of the Euros trying to get a cheaper deal and then realising, the season's approaching, Bournemouth aren't budging, I best step into gear and get the man that Ange wants. Because I personally, I don't know, again, people in the chat, almost 200 of you here, I think Ange Postecoglou is quietly fuming inside. I'm not putting, this is, like I said, this is my personal opinion, and from what I've seen in years gone by and patterns emerging. So when it comes to, was Solanke first choice? In my head, in my heart, no. I would have hoped it was Gyökeres, blah, blah, blah. But in my head, I look at it, that could have been his first choice because we've seen how well he fits the system. But Daniel's been doing what Daniel does, the excellent negotiator, which didn't work, and he actually had to end up paying what Bournemouth wanted. Look at Eze. If we get Eze, it's because we've done what Crystal Palace wanted and met the demand. It wasn't negotiating. So I think I'm now starting to think that he was Angie's first choice all along. Daniel's just screwed up the negotiations. Jonny.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I'm sure I read today that Solanke was identified very early on as number one target, and as I said, I read that we started negotiations with him back in June. So you know, it sounds like he clearly was. He was the one that Ange wanted. So why it took us until August to get it done, I'll never know. Unfortunately, we don't ever have enough information around this kind of stuff, and so we're all left kind of speculating. And those of us who, you know, are fed up with Levy and the way that the club's been running, you know, this is the sort of stuff that will be jumped on, and he really doesn't help himself. You know, he doesn't give us enough information so that if all of this isn't true, you know, if he is actually doing his best, and Bournemouth were playing difficult all the way through, he's never going to get that grace. He's never going to get that kind of benefit of the doubt because we don't get enough out of him to really know. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the way you see it is absolutely spot on, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, people in the chat, with the way I've said it, do you still think Dominic Solanke wasn't first choice and we've got what we could get? Or you do think there might be something to the master negotiate? I mean, how they can even say this, I don't know. I mean, let's not get this wrong. They need to sell papers. They need engagement on Twitter. So they're going to say things. And I will say, and I am fundamentally, or I was fundamentally one of them that would jump on it in a goddamn heartbeat. But you cannot say, I'm going to bring it up again. You cannot say the structured and methodical way that he's worked has helped Daniel Levy do what he's good at, negotiating. Because I think he's negotiated more deals to break rather than he has. If you look at the list of players that could have come, you look at the players that or directors of football that have said it, I'm starting to I'm starting to think, and I'm being serious, that he was first choice. I really am starting. In my head, I wouldn't have wanted to think that he was first choice, but I really am starting to get the feeling that he wasn't. Daniel has been meddling. But here we go for another one. And it comes up even more, and it's from Matt Law. Now, tell me, Spurs fans, whether you love me or hate me, you love the owners, you hate the owners. We all want what's best for the football club. And who would have thought, just like the ownership and investment coming in, we're on transfer deadline or the transfer window, the plan is for more exits before the transfer window. I can't say this seriously. Before the transfer window shuts, and just who leaves may dictate incoming business. Now, I'm going to let you go, Jonny, but what I will say, it's all starting to take shape again, and I don't understand where we had so many needs incomings before we got rid of the outgoings, and still need right this second why outgoings could still determine our incomings.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, we know full well that the stadium is generating huge revenues, and the club financially is in a great spot. I think someone said in the chat already, like 7th richest club in the world or something like that. We're right up there. You know, match day revenues are almost unmatched from what I gather. So yeah, the whole kind of we need to sell before we can buy idea should have gone out the window a little bit, whilst also, you know, appreciating that there is obviously some need to be making sure that we fall in line with PSR, but by all accounts, our headroom for PSR is enormous. So we don't need to worry about that. There shouldn't be a determination around selling before we can buy. We've already cleared out numerous players who didn't fit the system. You know, there's more to go out. Lo Celso's not been part of preseason. He's guaranteed to leave. Reguilon's guaranteed to leave pretty much. And to be honest, it doesn't matter whether they go now or whether they go on deadline day. They're going to go out the door. So I'm hoping that this is just one of those situations where the club maybe feeds a journalist with certain information to help shape the narrative that we're not flushed with cash, right? So that even though most clubs probably know that we're all right in that respect, and they probably don't even care. But it's about playing that game and making clubs think that we've still got to sell before we can buy. So we're not absolutely ready to just throw any fee that you want to charge us. Do you know what I mean? So that's the only thing I can give you as a possible reason as to why this kind of information has been fed out there. But do I believe that's the case? I don't think I do. So we'll see. I'm confident. I'm concerned, but I'm confident that we will make more signings before the end of the window. Hopefully, at least 2, maybe 3. But maybe that's just
depends on the quality, Johnny. It depends on the quality, and like PSR that we're well advanced of. Every club knows how flush we are with cash because obviously the financials come out for every team.
Yeah.
But remember, we've got to wait for other teams to find their replacements. That's the one that I'm loving at the moment. No one else is buying. Look at West Ham, Manchester United around us. And when it comes to West Ham, apparently things can't all be done in one window. Well, West Ham are giving it a damn good go. Got a couple of super chats to go through, and then we'll start going towards questions. So, first one from Michael. Thank you very much indeed, Michael. Who will be the Davinson Sanchez sell-off that ruins our system before the campaign? There's going to be one. Who do you reckon?
I don't know. Who would be our Davinson sell-off for ruin the system? I mean, who could it possibly be? I mean, there are a lot of people who don't want Lo Celso to be sold. A lot of people that I've seen have been saying they'd like to see him starting instead of Maddison. Now, I'm not one of those people, and I certainly don't think he would, break the system. I'm not sure that I can see anyone that would have that kind of impact that we're likely to get rid of. I think everybody that's been earmarked to go is going because they don't fit the system. So I haven't got one for you, to be honest. I don't know if you've got one.
I think it's with Sergio Reguilon. I think he's going to go right near the end of the window, and we may have been going for another one. And it's like, oh no, we're going to have to pull out of that now and get this. So I think it's going to be Sergio. We have Peter giving another channel membership away. Peter, big up to you. Just a quick one as well to all our viewers in Australia. We've come up with a content idea for our Australian viewers, and we want to try and put a show together regarding Angela's performance and everything. So if any Australian fans want to be a part of it, reach out to us on my social media, the channel social media, and we'll reach out to it. We'll be pre-recorded because of the time. And Peter, we'd love you to be one of them. Thank you for gifting another membership. Max Lyon, more exits equals no good replacements equals we are screwed. That is basically an equation that is basically what happens every year. Johnny, what are you reckoning? And thank you, Max, for the super chat.
Again, I'd like to think that that's not the case. I think that what happened last season, we started so well. And I think I said this on the last time I was on, and those injuries and suspensions derailed our season. Now, I appreciate that more strength and depth would have helped us a great deal in that situation, but the amount of injuries and suspensions we dealt with, including Asia Cup and AFCON, was unprecedented. Like, that was ridiculous. I think Ange just said himself that the squad is already better prepared than it was last season for the season ahead. So, and the youth that's coming through, like, again, I'm going to talk about Tyrese Hall.
Oh, wow,
Michael
that's a big one.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that is
God, Man City as a please. Just, I didn't say that.
Well, absolutely, it could spur them into action, couldn't it?
Getting back to the one you were saying, John. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. As I say, I'd like to think that we're better placed simply because the players that we currently have, including the youth, are all going to be a better fit for the system and all going to understand the instructions better going into the season than they did last, and they still did pretty well last season. I don't think anybody that's left so far we should have retained. Do you?
I mean, probably not. But the thing that gets me with this, and where I go along with this, is at the moment, you went on about injuries and obviously not having the strength in depth. We are numerically weaker, a lot weaker than where we were this time last year with the quality or lack of whatever you want to say, the numbers physically. At the moment, it will be, again, with it's squad filler. It's not, don't get me wrong, Archie Gray, quality brought in. Bergvall, quality that will go on to be so. Dominic Solanke, you could put it in that category. Werner, squad filler. That's not quality. And I've got a feeling that the more we get out, it won't be marquee. I don't expect 4 marquee like wow, but I'd expect at least a couple. And then, but I see it just being more squad filler unless an Eze comes in. But we're going to start going to the question, Joe. I've got 2 members chats. When you are a member, every month when you renew, you get to leave a members chat, which is like a super chat. So if you go to where the super chats are, it'll say membership chat. Hennessy has been a member for 7 months. A dear friend of mine also came to the protest. Good evening, ladies and gents. Hope is all well. All is well good here. Thank you for asking, buddy, and thanks for your support. And Just a Harmless Potato, 2 months a member with Come On, You Spurs. Right, Johnny, you ready for question time? Oh, yeah, man. Another super chat's coming from my man Perchy. Is anyone, first of all, Perchy, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Is anyone actually shocked? I was saying this in June. Look at everyone who needs bulking and improving. Same old Spurs for me. It's a circus. Now, me and Perchy are very, very, very much aligned. We are very much aligned. So I'm going to let you take this one, Johnny.
Again, though, I think it really depends on how you want to look at the situation. I think if Perchy's like you and has real disdain for Levy and the way that this club is being run, then probably no matter what we do, it's going to be hard to align to that hope and that optimism. You know, like so I get it, I do, but I don't see it as a circus personally. And it's I think the club is very, very well run, but I do think that transfers is one of the areas that we just need to be better. We need to be sharper. We did well last summer. I thought the number of players that we brought in last summer was a good starting point for that transition away from the Conte squad, which, let's face it, was
dying a death,
borderline, just completely unacceptable for an Ange system. And we've moved it on relatively well. We went from being a team that was the worst in the league at pressing to being one of the best in the league at pressing, and that comes from, what was it, 5, 6 well-placed transfers. Mickey van der Ven, no one knew who Mickey van der Ven was when we signed him.
Correct.
Not a person, right? But I don't think, I'd never heard of him, and he was absolutely incredible for a good fee as well. So they have shown that they can do it. They can make good signings. Let me tell you, man, Lucas Bergvall is absolutely unbelievable, that kid. Watching him live on Saturday in that Bayern Munich game, just for a half, that kid is special, and I think whilst, and Archie Gray as well. Archie Gray did some things at right back for an 18-year-old. The way that he did the quick feet, dribbling around, the winger he was up against, some of the stuff they were doing, those two, at the age they're at, was absolutely ridiculous. And I think that I get it. I understand that there's always going to be that pessimism and that worry and that concern, but I'm not going there yet, man. I'm not. It's the start of the season. If we can't be optimistic at the start of the season, then when can we be? Do you know what I mean? We've got to be able to kind of just cling on to a bit of hope. Hopefully we start the season like we did last season, when everybody was fit, coming off a good preseason, and the chemistry was good and everything was working. And we don't see that ridiculous injury suspension issue that we had last season, which massively derailed things for us. I think we'll finish top 4 without that. I swear to God.
Well, let's hope we do. I mean, you look at it, and where he said it's a circus. Perchy, I know he's just talking about our transfer activity and the way we do things, like where we are now. It makes no sense waiting for the Euros. Those teams are waiting for the replacements. We've done it before where we sell a player before bringing the player in. Sometimes have been left with our pants down. It's just got to improve. And obviously the discussions we've had with the slides we've done have shown that it doesn't look like it is changing. I will say to any mods in the chat, there is a guy that I think I've blocked. You should be able to spot his name a million miles away. If he comes up again, please just block him. You should be able to spot the name a million miles away. We've got another members chat from Rich. Thank you for 7 months supporting the channel. I just want Eze. Yeah, if you could sign one player right now, Johnny, yourself, one player within realistic. You're with me. You're
comment of the day. Appreciate you.
We sign him, and this is the thing. The thing as well, people like myself and Perchy, and why we go like this, and I'm going to use Perchy's name because he put the super chat in, is if we signed an Eze, if we signed a decent left back, we got another. I'm just going to throw Conor Gallagher's name in there, even though I don't want him. I know Ange does. If we got Conor Gallagher and Eze in a left back, I would come out and go, do you know what? That's what I want. That's why obviously my manager has been backed. Now I want to see it year in, year out. Keep the manager and do it. Until he does that on a consistent basis, I can't change my stance on him. But now we're going to go through the questions. So stop putting questions in there unless they're super chats or members chats, because I cannot see the comments. So, Stuart, big up to you, my brother. Big links for Mario Hermoso today at 29 on a free, good left back and left centre back. Would this be a good short-term option while Phillips is getting ready and probably out on loan? Johnny?
I've not watched him a lot, right? So I looked into this a little bit earlier. From what I can see from the feedback that I've read from some of the sort of tactical kind of analysis of his game, excuse me. His best attribute is his ability on the ball, playing out from the back. Apparently, for Atletico Madrid, he made a huge difference to the way that Simeone's team built up their build-up play due to the way that he is on the ball. The concern is that there's this general consensus that he has an inability to concentrate fully for 90 minutes and that he has some positional deficiencies. So that's one of the things that is a little bit of a concern. Apparently, he can operate well at left centre back or left back. He's on a free, as Stuart said. So I personally think, why not? The for the most part, we're going to be playing Van de Ven and Romero, maybe Van de Ven and Dragusin, depending on how those things are going to rotate. You have a player like Hermoso who is good on the ball. I think you mentioned he's got relative quickness as well.
Yeah.
And that to me seems like a smart move on a free. So I'm up for it, Stuart, if you are.
So I'll read something. When someone heard about this, someone said me just a little thing, because I don't know a lot about him, like you said, and it's stated that Hermoso is one of the fastest centre-backs in world football. The Spaniards clocked a top speed of 38.3 kilometres per hour in the UEFA Champions League this term. Now, where I don't know a lot about him, the fact that he can play left-back and left centre-back, and the fact that, for me, we have to keep Van de Ven's hamstrings protected at all times. If there's games where we can say, Van de Ven, you need to just sit this one out, and then we liken him pace for pace, which is going to benefit the way we play the high line, I'd be all for it. But I'm not going on his footballing ability because I haven't seen enough of him, just connecting the dots. But Rinketic, you've said some blasphemous thing here. Brian and Johnny, would you be pissed if we sold I'm already pissed. I haven't even got to the question yet. to Leipzig, Leverkusen, or Dortmund with a 50% sell-on clause or buyback. Johnny?
Would I be pissed? I don't think I'd be pissed. I'd be a little bit disappointed. But I am absolutely all in favour of buyback clauses and sell-on clauses, because that feels like that's becoming more and more of a thing. I had a Liverpool fan almost thanked me the other day that they're going to get 20% of the Dom Solanke fee, because they thought to put a sell-on clause in there, and obviously we've got one for Marcus Edwards, which potentially gives us leverage to even sign him back if we're going to. I think that this needs to become more of a regular occurrence, buybacks and sell-ons, because it just gives that player more of an opportunity to really go and give it their all, and if they perform, you get them back straight away. So I wouldn't be angry, I wouldn't be pissed, but I'd be a little bit bummed, I must admit. I'd rather see him go out on loan for this season, hopefully really perform, and next year be part of the squad. I don't see why he shouldn't be next year.
Yeah, I just can't see Alfie. I don't want Alfie to ever leave this football club. I love him. But you know what? You mentioned, it's funny that Rinketic, you mentioned Germany, because obviously the English lads have gone out there and really grabbed their opportunity well. I think if this had to be done and I had to choose one, I would rather have the 50% off buyback than sell on, because I keep saying, if Alfie Devine leaves this football club, I kid you not, we are going to regret it. And I've been saying this for 3-4 years, and I'm sticking to it. 4 years I've been saying it. So for me, I don't want to see Alfie go anywhere. Next one, Kevin G. Big up, Kev. If we don't have home-trained players in the squad, how many players would be... Right, so when it comes to the exact numbers for this, Kev, I don't know if you know, Johnny. I don't. But what I would do is, obviously, people know my very close connection and this channel's close connection to We Are Tottenham TV. Ben and Simeon did a video exactly about this yesterday. So I know it's on their channel, where it explains the difference between homegrown, club trained, and what we need for, and it's in depth. And Simeon is brilliant on these type of things, as well as Ben, but Simeon has a real great way of breaking this down. So I would go check out We Are Tottenham TV's video on it for absolute clarity. Ethan, always a pleasure to see you, mate. The number 8 is the most congested area of the squad. So for me, why do we need another as opposed to a number 6 or rotation for Madders if we want another midfield body? Where, if you could sign a midfielder right now, we all keep talking about this, and all Spurs fans are, whether you're streaming, you're a content creator, you're on Twitter, you have a big... And the main thing is, everyone says Ange Postecoglou does not play with an orthodox 6. He likes 2 8s and a 10 or a hybrid. So if you could sign, we're going to flip it a bit, Ethan. I don't think a number 6 coming in. So it's pointless to me talking about a number 6. As much as I'd want one, I don't see us doing it. Johnny, where are you with it? If you could bring in a midfielder now, where are you going? Now, obviously, Eze's a 10, but if you're looking for that combative, like number 8 kind of area.
If we were going for an 8, then I'd want us to go back for Ramsey. I'm a huge Jacob Ramsey fan.
Okay.
I've liked him for a while now. I think he's for whatever reason, whenever I've watched or Villa have been on or I've watched Villa highlight, he's just always stood out to me. I'm not sure that he is necessarily a box-to-box type of 8. He's more of a goal-scoring 8. And I think, in fairness to Ethan's question, it depends how you look at our midfield, and it depends whether you consider that how we consider the players. But it's more about, how does Ange see them? Does Ange see Maddison as a 10, or are they all 8s to him? Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to know for sure. So obviously we've talked about Eze. Would he sort of fall into that 8 category? Because to Ange, it's quite a broad category. Do you know what I mean? As far as he's concerned, the 2, I always understood it to be 2 8s, that push on, because the wingers pull out wide and stretch the defence, and they fill in those gaps either side of the striker to burst into the box and get goals. He wants his number 8s to get goals, and we didn't get enough goals from midfield last season. So,
right,
that could easily be Eze, could easily be Ramsey. We were linked to Locatelli the other day, who, to my mind, was more of a 6 than an 8. But others have said that he could easily classify as an 8 in the Ange system. So, but Ramsey, again, talking about homegrown English, I love Ramsey. I think he's absolute class. And if they still want Lo Celso, then we shouldn't be even thinking about letting Lo Celso go there unless they're willing to let us have Ramsey come the other way. Plus, Langer, by all accounts, loves Ramsey. So I think that's
yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I don't know if it's me that I'm old school. I hate talking about midfielders going a 6 and 8 and a 10. It drives me mad, but it's the way of modern football. I'm going to chuck another name in there that I love, and I think he would be absolutely incredible with us. It always splits opinions when I say his name. He's at Nottingham Forest. He's got a double barrel name, and his name is Morgan Gibbs White. I love the man. I love him. I would take him all day. Next question from Alfie. Realistic, what youngsters will be kept and hardly get any minutes next season, and which one? We discussed this, Alfie, pretty much at the beginning, but we'll give you a quick rundown. So, which players, let's do players you think will stay and players, just rattle them off, Johnny.
Lancashire, I think, is going to stay. Mikey Moore's definitely going to stay. Tyrese Hall, I think, is still going to be here. I don't think Hall will get many minutes. So, I think those three will be sticking around. Dorrington will be sticking around, I would expect, because he was injured. But otherwise, it looks like Phillips and Devine and Donnelly are probably going to head out on loan as far as we can see.
There you go. I pretty much agree with you. Bang on. Okay. Laguna wants a question. Who do you think will be, in your opinion, who do you think will be player of the year in the Premier League this season? Let's take out all the other teams. Who do you reckon is to be Tottenham's player of the season?
Tottenham's player of the season?
Yeah.
Romero, I think. I'll be honest. I think, as much as I love Van de Ven, I think that quite a few people were surprised that Romero didn't get it, and I think Romero is going into that upper echelon now of players, and I think the fact that Real Madrid are showing an interest, at the beginning of the summer and quoted out of a move, I just think that he's maturing and developing into a hell of a player. His ball playing out from the back is superb, and I just think that without him, we'd be a far weaker side. So he would be my player of the season for Tottenham. You go with yours, and then I guess we could chuck out one for Premier League. He Saka or someone, but it ain't going to happen.
No, we're not going to say a filth player. No. My player of the season for Tottenham is Eberechi Eze. But that's the dream. If I'm being honest, it's such slim pickings, isn't it? I love Van de Ven. He is my favourite player, but I think I'm gonna chuck a real big curveball, and it's not because I am all on board this. Dominic Solanke.
Nice.
Dominic Solanke is going to get above 20 goals, and he's going to take Spurs Player of the Year, because the strikers, if they have a good season, always are going to do it, aren't they?
Yeah,
so
man,
I'm going to say Dominic Solanke. But if you had to do Premier League,
if I had to do Premier League, I would probably say Cole Palmer. I think that kid's on fire. I just think that he's got a real chance of just being everything for Chelsea. Even though I don't think Chelsea are going to be very good, and I think Maresca's going to get sacked, I think Cole Palmer will be everything for that club. And I think there's a good chance that he could win it. So he would be my shout from a Premier League standpoint. It's not going to be an Arsenal player. It's just not going to.
No, I'm actually going to go with the striker that was the top of my list above Gyökeres, but was never going to happen in a million years. And I'm going to say Alexander Isak.
Nice.
I think that guy is just unbelievable. Bobby K, one of my absolute ride or dies in this country. Love the man. This man is obsessed with Van de Ven, just like myself. He's actually got the Van de Ven kit. So thank you for the membership chat, Bobby. Right, we have got 6 questions left to go, so we'll go through them. Johnny from Shawley, do you think our amazing talented youth will start looking for permanent moves away because the path to the first team always seems obstructed no matter what they do?
I mean, it's very possible. I don't see why not. And as I said, when I mentioned Walker Peters earlier, it just fills me with pain when I think about the way that his career was the way it went at Tottenham. Again, Skip is going that way. The kid's got to think about a move. Harry Winks, I loved Harry Winks. Like, I know he wasn't he became a bit of a scapegoat, and I found that really, really frustrating and difficult because I just think that kid bled for the shirt, and he had some incredible performances for us, and so I was sad to see him go, but at the same time glad that he went when he did and got the move that gives him a chance to play every week. Skip needs to do that. But if we're talking about the proper youngsters, I could see Donnelly getting impatient. I'd like to think Lankshire's got a bit more of a easier path to first team minutes. Tyrese Hall, I've got a lot of hope for Tyrese Hall. I think I said on the previous time I came on, I hope that because of Bissouma being a bit, hit and miss, Tyrese Hall is perfect to play that 6, as much as you dislike it, mate. That 6 role in our team, I think he's got all the attributes. So I'm hoping that he might get fast tracked because I would be devastated to see a player like him go.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of them will, if they can't get first team football, it could be a real big problem because they are coming up as a golden. I will say golden generation the way they're coming through. We'll see what happens with them, but it could be an issue. And as Sean Slater put a question, I have just put in the chat again. If you do play Fantasy Football League and you do want to play, there is about 40 teams now in the Tottenham on Tour 1. And there is the link and the code to it. You've got till the first game kicks off. Next question, Spurs diehards. Adrian, would you take Johan Bakayoko? Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. His quotes have ruffled a few feathers recently. I think he said something along the lines of, I only want to play at the very best teams. I only want to play in teams that play Champions League. I think something like that. A very, very driven, determined young man who obviously sees himself as one of the best. Absolutely fair enough. I think the problem is that unless they've been taken out of context or, I don't know, poorly translated or something like that, I'm not sure that it will vibe well with Ange's desire to have players who really want to play for Tottenham because we're Tottenham. That's the one thing he definitely got from Dom Solanke was the kid was absolutely buzzing to join Spurs. Yeah. And that is what you want. That does mean something. So I don't want to do Bakayoko a disservice. He looks, again, profile-wise, exactly the kind of player that we should be targeting for our right wing. But it's just whether Ange would want a player who is has that potential kind of very, very, very driven character that only really cares about playing for the very, very top teams, and he sees everyone else as a stepping stone. That won't work for Ange.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there was another question within it from someone else. So you've taken that one. I'll answer this part.
Cool.
Do you guys think that Levy will pay 40 million for Bakayoko, who a lot of it? So I think we're getting to the point now where, like we said earlier, I think Ange is quietly starting to get frustrated with the lack of incomings and the team taking shape. And as we spoke about a lot during the show, the master negotiator, I think we are now entering the time where his negotiation skills might, as much as I can't stand them, we've discussed how wrong they are, I think we might be coming to bite the bullet and get the players in time. Mm. And the only thing that gets me with Bakayoko, and Ben from We Are Tottenham TV loves him, is I think, like you said, if he's not as committed to, he wants Champions League football, he wants this, he wants that, it's going to be a stepping stone. So I would probably avoid myself, but that's based on what we've discussed, not his playing ability. Final 2 questions. What is the end game for Daniel Levy? Is it simply to make a profit and con fans into multiple projects so he can provide so he can get rich and provide the illusion for punters, or to keep going to matches? You've just wrapped it up. I don't even need to answer this. You've summed it up. Johnny, where are you?
I mean, he's already pretty rich, isn't he? Obviously he would benefit from the club being sold. Something to the tune of 3.5 to 4 billion. I think we're valued at. He would make a huge amount of money. But the talk is that he's always been a Tottenham fan, as I've understood it, and that's one of the reasons that he's still doing this. Is that it's not about just about getting rich. I mean, the guy paid himself what, a £3 million bonus or something last year, so he's not short of a bob or two. I really don't think that that's what this is about. I think he believes that what he's doing is honourable, and he's trying to make this club better. And as I said, in many ways he has. If you look at it holistically, if you look at the overall picture, you've got to say that Tottenham are better off as a club, as an entity, than they were when they joined. We're richer than we ever were. We consistently in the top six. We're one of the established big six now.
It's contagious, that, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah. But the problem is that it's the footballing side, and the two things have never quite been aligned. And unless that's ever going to happen, I don't feel like this is ever going to change. It's just going to be this repeated cycle, and that's what we're all getting a bit fatigued from.
Joe, what I will say when it comes to him being a Spurs fan, God, it's really contagious. The guy can't even remember the first game he went to, whether it was Aston Villa or West Ham. I can remember 1988, the first game I went to Tranmere in the Simod Cup. Every Spurs fan remembers this. What really gets me, and I cannot stand it, and this is just me. You see chairmen that are passionate when the team scores a goal, or something's going on in the ground. That man, you could put a Madame Tussauds waxwork there, and it would have more movement than him. And he's giving it. I don't want to make it seem bad for the opponent. Whether his family may support Spurs, he may be a Spurs supporter, but whereas I want trophies over top four, this man wants money over trophies every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. And that's my opinion. Final question. Rico, my man, will we sign anyone else?
Yes, of course we will.
Cool. I'm saying I won't say of course we will. I'm hoping we will. If we don't, and let's face it, it could be a possibility. It could. I don't think it will. If we don't, then I think there may be trouble ahead. And I'm not just talking about from people like myself, people that will start finding their voices. I think there will be a lot of unrest from the management. I think there'll be a lot of it won't be a pretty place, will it?
No, I agree with you. It won't be. And I'll be right there with you, to be honest. I will not be happy if nobody else comes in, which I just don't think is going to happen. I don't ask me who. I ain't got a clue. But I do think there'll be more signings, and there need to be. So,
and there we go. Well, people, first of all, Jonny, thank you very much for joining me once again. We'll be getting you on throughout the season. Obviously, people, what we are going to be doing is, obviously, I do my reaction after the game, and we get it on the channel. If anyone wants to do reaction videos for us, reach out to me. We're going to try and get a few of you on if you want to do a little video every week to go on the channel. Jonny will be doing the odd few there. But Jonny, where can people find you if they want to engage more with you on social media?
Yeah, so it's at John T Evans, Jonty. Even though I'm Jonny, some people call me John T. Jonny Evans, EVANS. So that's me on Twitter. So yeah, give me a follow. I'll follow you back, and we'll talk more Tottenham.
There you go. I've just put it there. That's the correct way to do it, isn't it, John T? There you go. So that's where you can reach him. It's always a pleasure doing it with you. So tomorrow we have Morning Brews, and it's back to being live because Ben is back from holiday. It will be Ben and Dave. Tomorrow you're going to want to watch Evening Brews. But I've got Nick Collison, Emerson's biggest fan, and people know. And I've had a bet on with him that if he went or if he stayed, and the loser had to, I now get to pick one of Emerson Royale's TikToks, which he's going to have to redo and put on our TikTok. And he will be with me, and I will be showing him the one that he needs to redo. So we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. Everyone, thank you for the support once again of the channel. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, whatever you are doing. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, Levy out.